Okay, so I'd like to call to order the Mundelein Elementary School District 75 board meeting tonight on Tuesday, May 23rd. At 7:02. We are appointing Emily to serve as Secretary Pro Tem this evening, since Eric was going to attend another family event. Secretary Pro Tem, please call the roll.
Fingerhut,
Here.
Rose,
Yeah.
Pitsky, absent. Carl here. And Bill here, absent. And then, can you say your last name?
I did, but
Okay. Here, yes. Thank you.
okay. Do we have anyone present this evening who wishes to address the board? This is the citizen comment section.
I want to make sure we're doing the public hearing portion.
Oh.
First. We're okay, we're going through there, so
Okay,
we're opening the meeting, it's the public hearing. And then we can go to the first agenda on there, that's the review of the budget.
in the wrong order. Okay. So. Okay, still have going through the citizen comments.
I know, but we usually have the paperwork. Do we have the paperwork for the one to move into the public hearing on it?
For the board agendas?
Yeah, we don't have. I get it.
I'll put it up on the screen.
That's, the paper copy we had.
Okay, got, put in your folder, no problem.
And then extra movement.
Okay,
See
fine.
that?
okay. We're gonna go back and call to order at 7:04 PM, the public hearing on Tuesday, May 23rd. And this meeting will now come to order. Do we have any questions and answers from the board as to the adoption of the fiscal year 24 budget? Before we proceed. Then we'll proceed to the citizen comment section for the public hearing. Do we have anyone this evening who wishes to address the board on the issue of the public hearing for this evening? Hearing none. Do we have anybody online who wishes to address the board related to the public hearing? If there is no further business to come before the board related to the public hearing, this meeting will stand adjourned. No, okay.
So, I'm sorry. So let's call Tia for the question and answers, and she'll go through the details of the budget. So then we can have that shared now, and then we'll follow back up. So then
Got
when people hear it, we can do the public.
All right.
Okay.
We're all learning.
It's all new, and this is the fun part because we're modeling what should be taking place in classrooms every day.
Every day.
All right, Tia, it's yours.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to stand before you today to discuss our FY24 budget and to conduct our FY24 budget hearing. If we go to the next slide, Anna. Since the last board meeting, we have had a few changes to the budget. Our interest income has increased to by $85,000. This is a direct result of our continued amazing interest income results that are happening in FY23 that are also projected now for FY24. So every time we have a better than we anticipate revenue stream like interest income, it obviously affects the coming fiscal year. So we have increased our interest income by $85,000. Our food service revenue increased by $100,000. This is again a direct result of actual receipts that are coming into FY23. And our grant revenue increased by about $100,000 overall. Now, this increase has a direct reflection of what we anticipate to be carry forward for the coming year. So as we get to the end of the year, ESSER 3 is a very good example. Anything we don't spend this year, we have to spend next year or it's gone. So as we near the end of the year and we see that certain expenditures will be next year, we move that budget to next year. So you have an increase in the grant revenue, but also an associated increase in expenditures because it is a grant and that has a zero impact on your overall fund balance. So those are the revenue increases. Our expenditures also increased. We had our salaries and benefits increased by 180,000. Some of that was a result of the grant carry forward, but we also had about 15 or so lane changes that took place between, or that were implemented into the budget between last board meeting and now. We also have nurse pay adjustments that were incorporated to take our nurses to market rates and to add a stipend for the individual who's acting as our certified school nurse for the, for all of our buildings, not just one. In addition to that, we had other various changes that are reflected, that reflect bid results. We just had our NSLP bid. We have our custodial bid that will be coming to the board in June, as well as grant spending patterns. So with all of that said, if we go to the next slide, this slide depicts our operating budget. I discussed this slide because it's a great way to look at what correlates with what in terms of your revenue and expenditure. So you can see our largest source of revenue is our levy revenue, and our largest source of expenditure is our salary and benefits. Each year, that is a standard that comes, but our second largest source of revenue is our evidence-based funding, which used to be called general state aid. And that has not changed for the coming year. Overall, if we're looking at this from a 30,000-foot view, the good news is that we still have a balanced budget for FY24. We have a surplus of a total of $35,000 at this point. That said, we will be asking the board to adopt the FY24 budget at the action portion of our agenda. And I am happy to entertain any questions any of you may have.
Now, does anybody have any questions? I think it's a good time.
Great. Thank you very much.
And now I will call once again. Do we have anyone present from, for citizen comments this night, tonight, who wishes to address the board on the issue of this public hearing that we just had? Hearing none, and once again, I'll ask, is there anybody online who wishes to address the board on the issue of this public hearing? Okay. If there is no further business on this issue to come before the board, the meeting will stand adjourned at 7:10 p.m. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
I will move that we adjourn the meeting, and Mr. Rose will second. It's okay. Secretary, please call the roll.
Rose? Oh, you second. Carl? Aye. Billetier, absent. Javier? Aye. Lipsky, absent.
Now we will move on to our normal board meeting beyond the public hearing. So the motion, I make a motion that the Board of Education meeting will now come to order at 7:10 p.m. Secretary, please call the roll. We need to rush in. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Rose?
Here.
Carl, here. Javier, here. Billetier, absent. Fingerhut,
Here.
Lipsky, absent.
So now for the citizens comment portion of the regular board meeting, do we have anyone present who wishes to specifically address the board this evening? No, we will recognize. Okay. Hearing none, before we proceed to those other things, we have some guests with us tonight. We will proceed first to the administration of the oath of office for our new board member, Georgina Aguirre. And she wasn't able to make our organization meeting, so we do need to administer the oath of office for her so that she can fulfill her duties this evening. Are we
Do you have an extra oath of office?
I do.
Good, thank you.
Shane, yeah, allow Shane to step up to administer that like he did. for us.
It's long. So, each board member before taking their seat on the board shall take the following oath of office. Looking at you.
Yes.
I, name,
I, Georgina Gator,
do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School, District 75, in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability. I further swear that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can only be made by a majority vote at a public board meeting. I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining my right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. As a part of the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility for my role in the equitable and quality education of every student in the school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Mundelein Elementary School, District 75. I shall assist in establishing a structure and an environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in compliance with state law. I shall serve as the education's key advocate on behalf of students and our community school to advance the vision for Mundelein Elementary School, District 75. And I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the school district toward fulfilling the vision of the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the areas of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and professional development.
Welcome aboard.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are moving on to our Board of Education comment section where we will recognize some of our guests. We'd like to recognize some of our guests that are in the room today. So before we proceed with our youngest guest, we would like to call Kevin Holly and Dr. Myers up. We'd like to recognize his service.
So we're here tonight to recognize Kevin Holly. He's been a board member for District 75 and one of the longest tenured board members we've had. So I had a great opportunity when going around to schools to ask, tell me what you know about Kevin. Tell me how I could best describe him. And a lot of fun stories actually were able to be shared. And the things that stood out to me were people talked about Kevin's compassion, dedication, empathy, his willingness to challenge the status quo at times, and to be a great steward for the school district and the community. Definitely being a person that's passionate about Mundelein, believes in Mundelein, and wants to see Mundelein succeed. There's some of the things to phrase. So it's from some of the staff that shared with me about when I asked them to tell me about Kevin Holly. With him tonight is his wife Gretchen, his oldest son Ben, and his youngest daughter Micah. I learned through Gretchen that one of the reasons Kevin got on the board was because he wanted to have an influence on the type of education his children would be able to experience. And that says a lot about him as a person, because he was doing it also for the greater good. And I think that's one of the things that all of us can share is as we've worked with Kevin, we've seen him always look for what's in the best interest of all. As we've worked together as a board, and it's been a tremendous benefit and asset. During the time that I've known Kevin and looking back a little bit, during his tenure, there's been some significant things that have happened while he's been on the board and should be very proud of to be a part of that during that time. One, came on a time when we didn't have the best of finances and had to make a lot of really tough decisions that put our school district in the position today of where it is financially, that we're able to be more flexible, nimble, we're much more competitive with surrounding school districts and what we're able to do for our buildings and for our staff. Big part was putting in dual language, being a dual language district. It's something for us to be proud of as a school district in the community. Then there's the famous Washington West Wing. We were able to get that put up and did it in a way that it wasn't the easiest to do, but did it in a way that was very professional. I think anybody goes through there would say those are top-notch classrooms that anybody can be proud of. The other part was looking ahead to renewable energies. Kevin was part of it and working before to make sure there were solar panels and see what we could do to be more efficient with school resources. There was the start of one-to-one devices, and that started to come up during Kevin's tenure. That was initiated, and it's been seen as one of the things as you see going forward. It's just a norm for students now, and we've been able to do that, provide that for our students. During the process, he was a champion for shared services. He was open to it. He also challenged the idea of it. At times wondering if we should do that. He was a great balance for when that committee process took place with reaching out to community members and talking with other people in the committee. Ultimately also deciding, of course, where we are today, we should be in shared services. Kevin was a big voice in that. Then what came along was COVID, and during his stewardship in a very uncharted time, and probably one of the most tumultuous times public schools have had in recent memory, Kevin was a big support and helped guide the board, our leadership team through that pretty eloquently, in that we did not have a bunch of people coming to our board meetings. I think we had very good, clear communication. We supported one another. We did what we thought was best, knowing that we couldn't please everybody, but we did try to address concerns. And certainly one of the things that Kevin was part of. And most recently, we've taken on some big initiatives with looking at what we want to be able to do with our literacy. Kevin's a proponent of supporting that and working with our board so that we made sure that what we were doing to support our students with their ability to read and write was empower and exceeds what we even expect, because we know, as evidence of this evening, we've got some of the best and brightest students that you could possibly ask and want. And then one of the final things that I put last on purpose, Carl Sandburg is finally going to be one of the middle schools that will now be considered to have a stage, and it currently wasn't. And that was a big move, and I think that demonstrates everything what I just described for you during Kevin's tenure. The hard choices and decisions that needed to be made when he first was on to get us in a good financial spot has freed us up to be able to do some of the things to make better programming for our students and to make our community proud. So with that, Kevin, I want to thank you for your service, your leadership, and know that your impact is going to be felt for generations. So, COVID, look what we still have in there.
Hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer. So Kevin, on behalf of your fellow board members, the administration, or community, I want to present this plaque to you as a token of our appreciation and eternal gratitude for your years of service as a District 75 board member. 2009 to 2023.
Or Kevin's.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for those very kind words. First of all, Georgina, welcome to the board. I hope you enjoy what's about to come in the next 4 years. It's very rewarding. For me, there's nothing more rewarding than when students come to the board meeting and show the kind of things that they're doing in the classroom, because that's not something that you can find in your board packet. It's something that you really need to experience. So that's fantastic. Kids, thank you for coming today and presenting your work. I looked at some of the stuff. It was really awesome to see that. And I hope that continues, that students come before the board so you can see what's going on in the classrooms. I feel like that's a really important thing. But like I said, you don't get to see when you're stuck reading all the board packet over the weekend. Second, I want to thank the teachers and the staff and the administrators of District 75. I've been in education for 35 years, and the people that work in this district are incredible. The expertise they have, the compassion they have for kids, it's been just amazing to be a part of this district. First as a parent, and then as a technology volunteer, and then as a board member, and then as president. And a particular shout out to the administrators. One of the things that I feel like started when we hired Dr. Hendrickson as superintendent is that we've been really fortunate to hire amazing administrators to help lead the district at the school level. So that's been really great. And as I look around, just so much talent of the administrators in this room. So thank you for everything that you do every day for our kids. It's been fantastic working with you over these last years. And then I'll finish with, I started out doing technology. I went around with Miss Forty. I went around to all the classrooms at Washington School, like updating all the computers back like in 2007, 2008. And then when she moved to MG, I moved to MG and went around to all it. So I got a fascinating, incredible behind the scenes look at our teachers in action in the classroom. Because, you know, I was just there working on computers, but, you know, when you're updating a computer, you do something and then the computer takes time to do it. So I got to see so many of our teachers in action. And it was really incredible. I really knew that I was so proud that my kids went to this district to see the talent and the amazing teachers that were in each classroom that I went to. And then I joined the board, and it's been, Kevin talked a little bit about some of the amazing things that have happened. There's been highs, there's been lows. Probably the lowest point for me is the meeting we had in the Carl Sandburg multipurpose room when we were talking about closing Lincoln School, and so many parents who felt so passionately about that school came to give us their input. It was a really difficult place to be, to sit. But as Kevin talked about, it was really important for the financial health of the district to close Lincoln at that point in time. And no one was happier than me when a number of years later, we got to reopen that building and use it as an incredible, like out of the box thinking place for our youngest kids to go to. That's just fantastic. And then probably the highlight now for me is serving as president, but then the meeting not that long ago where we decided to vote to borrow a bunch of money and build a stage at Sandburg. I will just say that the very first musical that Carl Sandburg put on was Beauty and the Beast, and my daughter was part of that. And she had the opening scene of the show with a 8th grader named Will Gonzalez. And in case that name sounds familiar to you, Will Gonzalez won the Illinois High School Musical Theater Award Best Actor in a Production last night at the jury, or at the Marriott and or at the theater in Water Tower Place. And he'll be going on later next month to compete against people like that from all over the country. So proud that, I think he got to start before Sandburg, but I'm so proud that he was one of the, he played the Beast and the Prince in Beauty and the Beast. And he got his start in that first musical at Sandburg. So I'm so proud of that. So now to take a step to building a stage that those kids and kids in the future can now use at Sandburg to do musicals and other things. And eventually I'm sure we'll find uses for it that we don't even know at this point. So I'm really super excited about that is happening as part of the school district. It's been a great 14 years. Thank you all very much for your support and for really working to make this district what I consider to be one of the best around in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you.
For your.
Hey, like you're in this one, you're welcome to stay, but you're free to go.
Have a good meeting, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so next, yes, thank you. Thank you. I would like to call up Jorge Cantu to talk about our science explorers who are here, our other guests that are here for the evening. Tell us a little bit about the 75 Steam Foundation and the program that they brought to us tonight.
Certainly. So, hello, everybody. I am Jorge Cantu. I am a parent here in District 75. I'm also a scientist. I'm a biology professor. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also a biology professor and one of the co-directors of the District 75 STEAM Foundation. One of the programs that we started last year, and we are this is our second time doing it, is our Explorers program, where we provide a little bit of money to students who want to do an experiment, want to do some sort of research. And, and we try to provide resources to them and then also try to hook them up with, an actual scientist. Sometimes that's me. But sometimes we also try to find other folks outside of the community as well, who are also scientists in the field that they want to study in. Some of the posters that we have on display in the back here are from those explorers and the projects that they've done. We have everything from engineering, electricity, baking, which I guess you can consider chemistry, and then also space, radiation, and a lot of great stuff. And if you get a chance to talk to any of these kids, they'll tell you how passionate they are about their projects and about science and the scientific method. Also, I want to thank very much the parents that very much helped the students put together their posters, worked late doing the spell check, making sure that everything was looking great. And thank you all so much for letting us come and present to you all. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. And how many did we have participate this year?
So we had a total of 10 students who were selected for the Explorers program. Of them, we have 6 posters here. Some of them weren't able to make it. But that's how many we have. But we have space for many more. Hopefully, we get the word out. We'll try to get the word out a little bit earlier to make sure that people get excited about it, learn about it, and then and hopefully they can participate.
And this is
We
our
fill the
second
room.
year of doing this, right?
This is the second year, yes.
Yes, so thank you very much to all of our kids here tonight who
Yeah.
have taken the time and put in a lot of extra work and effort and energy into something that was not required of you during your school day. So it shows a lot about all of your effort that you were willing to put in that extra time and work. And you guys, in all the projects that I saw and got to hear, you're all very passionate about the work that you did.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting. And we
Yeah.
appreciate you guys coming tonight and sharing that with us. And we hope to see, I know some of you already told me about plans you have to continue and expand on your work for next year. So we look forward to seeing the continuation of your projects next year. But we do thank you very much for joining us. And
Yes,
so
they
thank
are,
you for-
there are future engineers, scientists, chemists, and hopefully one day they'll have wings on MG and everywhere that is named after them, after they, are able to patent these great experiments.
Tell all your friends and invite them, tell them how much fun you guys had and ask them all to participate next year. And we'd love to see the rooms full of them, but you guys did a great job and I thank all of you for coming. Sorry, CJ, is behind. That's the- or the post there, but thank you for coming and participating and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Great,
Thank you.
all right. Yes, all right.
And thank you for coming and for doing that. I gotta take time out of your schedules too.
All right. Can we get we're welcome to stay, but we.
Oh, of course, you are all welcome to stay and listen to the very exciting work that we have to do here,
And
but we don't expect you to.
And
stay.
the
You're also
important second
welcome
part
to
of
leave.
that is we're welcome to
Yes,
leave.
you are.
Thank you all so much.
Do you want to leave them here?
Oh, yes, we're gonna leave the poster
Okay.
here tonight. Yep.
See, there was asking, so I was just passing that along. Yeah.
We'll get them tomorrow.
We won't steal them, we promise.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you. Okay, so getting back to the regular work at hand, before we move on too much farther, because we wanted to take a brief opportunity to kind of tell you about our different committees and stuff that we have, because we do need to select our committee assignments and appointments, and we elected not to do that since you were not present. We thought we could have just assigned you to a few.
I appreciate.
But we thought we would include you in the process, so we kind of talked about it a little bit and we kind of had an idea, but we're open to hearing that, so. Do we want to wait until after the reports to do that? And then we talked about maybe doing this now, just because otherwise not an agenda item, we just need to make sure everyone has an assignment.
You want to do it now with the comments that you just started?
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking, and we can get on to the business, but. So we thought it would be helpful to maybe give you a little bit of an overview of our different committees. We do have some, people that express interest in remaining in some of them, but also willing to be open and to see what interests you might have, because obviously we want you to to hear your interests and what interests you in order to go further with that. So we've got. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So we have 5 different committees that we have to pick 2 members to be part of each one. And then we also have 3 different representative appointments, which aren't full committees, but still would report back to us on different things. The committees are, those meetings would take place, some of them are monthly, some of them are periodically. And when any time we have at least 3, any of the board members are welcome to attend any of them, but anytime we have 3 attending, we have to have it as an open meeting as part of the Open Meetings Act. And so then we have to post the agenda and the notice of that. So that's why it's we kind of need to give Anna and everybody a heads up if more than 2 of us are planning to show up. When those do, so we've got board policy, which I don't know if you've been introduced to all of that and where to find those on our website. Lots of riveting reading that fills up like a whole binder if you really want to print it all out. We discussed it and we are willing to print it out for you if you'd like us to, but it's all available on the website. And we subscribe to a service that allows us to, it's called Press Plus, that allows when we make changes, it all goes there. And then once we finalize it and Anna does her work on it, rather than her having to retype all of the things and the changes we made, it gets incorporated, which saves her a lot of time and effort and all of us. And then we know that it's accurate too. So this last time I was the lone standing member of the board policy committee, but we do have, we've built it into our meeting to start doing a piece of it each time, which will probably start at the next meeting where we're doing more, lots of things today. And doing that. And so with 2 people on, we would kind of divide up going through it and presenting that and then going through that. We've also got a finance advisory committee. Ray, do you want to talk about that?
The finance committee meets, pretty much like every 2 or 3 months. And, there's normally 2 board members. And there's members of the community that's on the committee as well. And we meet with T. So when things like the budget, there's a lot of discussion about the budget and what's going on and where money's coming from, where it's going, and hopefully we'll be able to get a copy of the budget and see the work that he did. And she does a lot of work and lays out in detail, which helps us to be able to see where we're going and how we're going to get there.
Right.
And as well, like you've heard discussion tonight about the stage at Carl Sandburg. There was a lot of discussion on the finance committee about the funding and what that's going to look like and how is that going to affect the community and the tax base. And the other side of it too is how is it going to affect the students and what the contribution is to the students and the well-being of them and their futures by moving with it. So that's just a sample of some of it. It gives us the ability then to come back to the board with information that we garner, budget, bonds for the funding of the stage, those kinds of things. So, it doesn't sound like it would be exciting, but it really is, especially with the interaction of the community.
Right.
Because you have community members there that also bring a different perspective that makes us aware, what's going on out there. And we've got to be sensitive to that as well.
And that's another one of our committees that Ray is on, and we have an opening for right now. So that's, like I said, policy and finance, there's definitely a willingness to have an opening there. We also have a shared services committee, which Emily and Ray have, Emily and Eric have expressed an interest to remain on since they've both been doing that. And that's the committee that meets periodically. I don't know that it's, since they've they meet periodically with the committee from the D120 board and discuss, you know, where the overlaps are. And we recently, are we bringing that up the next time to reaffirm the shared services arrangement so that she could be a part of that? It's not on today's agenda, so that would be another time.
Right, so
Right.
it's a review. and
Yeah.
then Second reading next month.
So we will do the second reading of that next month and give you an opportunity to see kind of a little more details on the shared services. So it's an important committee. It's allowed us to do, we were able to excel a lot faster through once we implemented it. 5 years ago? 4 years ago. It's hard to keep track because I attended the meetings a whole year before I was on the board, so I lose track of, I was like, is that fun? So, that they were working on that for a long time to put it together between the two districts, and then, it's been in place now for 4 years, and they thought that it was gonna go much slower, but before we had a lot of the overlap between the two districts, and just, it's been, you know, successful, and we're very, very proud of the cost savings we've been able to obtain for both districts, which then benefits the students and staff as a whole, so, as a community. So we, so like I said, Eric and Emily have expressed interest and willingness to keep doing that. We've also got a parent-teacher advisory and or behavioral intervention committee. We didn't all really know about this until we were doing our policy review. We didn't have anybody sitting on that previously, doing our policy review that we were going through. It's in our policies. We're supposed to have one. So we're appointing 2 members to that this time. Al has offered to be one of the members on that, but that is an option that's available. I don't know that there's a formal meeting on how often that would be, but as things might arise or as issues come up, I'm sure that we would hold some committee meetings on that and see, work with, maybe work with the Parent Teacher Association and how they can overlap and make sure we're all kind of working together, somewhat like the community outreach and the village liaison, which we'll get to, but then we've got also the strategic planning committee, which has we've recently put into place, and Emily and Ray have expressed an interest to remain as that, and since they've kind of spearheaded it and taken that on this past year and dealing with the strategic plan, we're going to be looking at further detail tonight. So we thought, those of us that discussed last time, we thought it probably made sense to have them for continuity, continue that through and have them do that. We're also going to, we envisioned discussing, as a board, we wanted to really make sure that through these next, few years and terms, we wanted to focus on increasing our community outreach and hearing more from whether that's students, teachers, parents, and everybody in the community, those that are within our school and outside of it. But we thought that it made sense once we get past the strategic planning, it'll still need to be reviewed and monitored, but the active work on that won't be as arduous. And so we thought it might make sense to pull in order to implement that strategic plan as part of the community outreach. And so rather than having another committee and having everybody meet, which then brings on tasks for the administration and the staff and, and everybody. So we want to be mindful of that. So those are our 5 committees. We also have 3 different representative appointments, which aren't full committees and are just, it's really 1 member each, I think is what we decided to do. And for the village liaison, we decided, since that was similar, that was affiliated with the community outreach, that Ray was going to continue on as the appointed representative from the shared services / community outreach committee to be part of that. And that's to keep us clued in to maybe not attending all of the village board meetings, but at least maybe monitoring their agendas and seeing if there are issues that we should all be alerted to that might impact us or that might interest us as a board. And then he'll keep us apprised of that. Obviously, any of us can go to any of those, but maybe to be apprised of that. We also have CEDAW. And Eric has been doing that, and he's open to continuing to do that, although he was open and willing if that was a strong interest, that somebody else had, but he was willing to continue in that capacity. He attends those, I think they're not quarterly. Yeah, quarterly board meetings. and then reports back to us when things, and there are some overlaps, as you'll see. And considering, I don't know, don't know who you know and who you don't, but considering his background, that's also of interest to him and his expertise, so. He's willing to keep doing that. The STEAM Foundation, which you got a little taste of tonight with the, the Science Explorers. I've been the STEAM Foundation point, I'm happy to continue, but also open to pass it off. But I attend, right now, they do monthly board meeting, usually monthly, they kind of take off in the summer a little bit. They're all via Zoom, so it's easy to attend, and we do a few fundraisers a year, and then some of these big projects. They just did the Mundance Film Festival at the high school a few weeks ago, and things like that. So it's a little bit of volunteer work, but my kid's involved in some of them, and I'd be volunteering anyway, so I step up and do that. But again, if that's a particular interest, I'm happy to pass that off too. So those are our representative appointments. Do any of the particular committees or appointments stand out to you, or do you have particular interest?
So initially, parent teacher advisory and behavioral intervention was just something that I was gonna ask about, so I'm happy to hear that there's an opening in that.
Okay.
And then hearing you talk about how like that's not in the board policy and perhaps should be, and you're gonna be doing some of that, I'd be willing to do both that and the board policy alongside with you.
Sure.
So we can have that continuity. And then, I don't know how I feel about the representative appointments just yet. I feel like these other two might be.
They'll keep you busy, and
Yeah.
you want to get your feet wet
Yes.
first, and that's fine.
Yes.
And since the other 3 representative appointments we have people willing to step in and
Yes.
continue those.
Yeah.
As long as, you don't, you're gonna die need to do one of those, then that sounds good, and then we can just ask among, I don't know if did anybody else? Since we're missing a few people, or 2 people, but do we know if anyone else wanted? I didn't hear anybody else, I didn't written down, express interest in finance, but we can open that up, and see if either, if anyone wanted to step up and fill that, maybe we can leave that one a little open and blank until we have the other 2 members, or at least consult with them. Did you have anyone reach out to you and say they had an interest in doing that? Or anyone you want to stick it up and voluntold, some of them out here?
I was just going to say, I'm happy to do it if Eric and Al don't have strong will to do it.
Al's only got one other one, so we can ask, but, so maybe we'll just say Emily or Al.
Sure.
And we'll,
We have time, the next meeting is in October. So.
Yeah.
We have time.
good time to fill the seat, right?
Right.
Fill a vacancy. No, that's fine. And obviously, as things come up, sometimes those are interesting ones that we do open up to open meetings, rather than just having the 2 people, so that, because they can be, it's usually insightful, especially, I know I attended a few of those my first term, because sometimes it's helpful to hear a little more about what's going on, to understand the budget when you're doing them here too, so.
The same thing, Ray, if you ever need help with community outreach, I can step in too.
Well,
If you ever need help with community outreach, it's.
We got you, that's the strategic planning / community outreach, so you guys are both
Yeah,
on
or
that one.
village liaison, yeah. Mhm.
I thought we had said, we were gonna change the name of that strategic planning committee to community outreach committee.
Yes.
Well, and that's
Change community outreach.
it's a village liaison, and that's what I
Yeah.
wrote down here as well. So we were really gonna do one village liaison as the representative appointment, because we
Yeah.
didn't need to.
Right.
I think Emily was just saying she's happy to be sort of a backup if
Oh, yeah,
you
right.
needed assistance on the village liaison piece,
Right.
but I agree, the strategic planning, and it is really / community outreach, and you and Emily are going to do that. And so that's, yeah. Okay, so we'll just kind of table we'll say either Al or Emily on the finance, and talk to Eric as well, but since, he's got a few other ones, and so does she, so we'll see how it goes. Okay.
So Al had mentioned that he was interested in the parent teacher.
Yes, that's why I said he and Georgie, sorry, are, Georgina, are on that one. And then, but since he has one and everyone else, and you have a couple, so that's where it's like, we can ask him and see if he wanted to add that one to his repertoire or not. But thank you, Emily, for stepping up
Of course, yes.
in the event that we have that, so I'll fill that out for Anna afterward. Okay. Okay, so
Did you jot them down?
I did, I've got them in my notes here, but I will put them on this.
So
I will
why don't we
get,
just read them back?
okay, we can do
I
that.
have them too.
Let's just make sure we're confirmed, not as following, so then you're not.
Got it.
Typing and stuff. Let's
That's
just
okay.
reconfirm.
Okay,
and then we're good.
So board policy, we've got Christy and Georgina. For shared services, we've got Emily and Eric. For the finance, we have Ray and either Emily or Al. We will look into that one. For the strategic planning / community outreach committee, we've got Emily and Ray. Then for the representative I'm sorry, shared services, did I say Emily and Eric? If I didn't already say that, that's what I meant. The parent teacher advisory would be Al and Georgina. And then for the 3 representative appointments, I will do the STEAM Foundation, Eric will do CEDAW, and then the village liaison will just do 1, and we'll have it be Ray. Emily is an alternate. If needed. Since you guys are working on the other stuff and it all kind of goes together.
He doesn't check.
And obviously, if any of us can't do it, I would hope that we all understand and know we can reach out to any of us to step up and be an alternate without having to be designated as such. Because the whole goal is to make sure that we have it covered, and so that we can report back and talk to each other and make the meetings productive and sort of divide and conquer. And, hopefully not have to have everybody attend every millions of meetings, because that's a lot. And so, okay. All right, so then, since we normally, at this point, we also do the code of conduct review that Eric has been taking on, so as part of the oath that you just listened to and affirmed tonight, there's a code of conduct, and then so he's got, did we give Georgina a copy of the
Art of school board.
the art of school boarding? Can I make a request that we order one for her, since we all had a copy of that, or at least give her one?
Already done.
Already done. Anna's on it. Anna's on it. Good. She's reading her mind. So we will get that to you. It's a short read. It's a quick read. You don't have to do it all by the next meeting. But, it's broken down into pretty basic sections, and Eric has been highlighting one each meeting for us. So we will save that, since he was at more important family event tonight. And we'll start with that, and once you've had a chance to look at it, it'll make more sense. So, but that's what we've been doing there at that part. All right, we have lots of preamble stuff tonight, which is more than we usually do, but now we'll move on to the heart of our meeting. We will hear the District 75 reports, so we'll hear the report starting with the business office. Kind of poll, I wasn't sure like where. Where is she from? I used to be on that. A little bit further walk. Yeah. Get your steps in, right?
Right? The health initiative. Good evening. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak again. The first item on the business office report is the FY24 budget for adoption. We have held the public hearing and completed all the legal requirements to have our budget adopted. And at this point, we're asking the board to adopt the budget. I'm here to answer any questions you might have that have come up between the public hearing and now. Do you have any questions?
After hearing from the science explorers, now suddenly you have budget questions.
Yes. Hearing none, thank you. I will go on to the National School Lunch Program bid. Our bid results came in. We did seek out 16 vendors, but we only had 2 bid on our National School Lunch Program. And our recommendation is to go with the lowest bid. That is a recommendation that's also supported with ISB requirements. So ISB does have some very strict guidelines as it relates to what you can do for your National School Lunch Program and the bid process. And as a result, pretty much if you have the lowest bidder, you are required to go with that individual. So that's our recommendation at this point. There's only about a $20,000 difference between the 2 vendors. But we are very excited because our new vendor is looking at bringing back one of our old employees, our old individuals who worked for a different food service vendor for the district to run our program again. And we're very excited to have her back and looking forward to that transition. So with that said, we're asking that the board adopt or approve Arbor Management as our food service company for the coming year and as our low bid. Any question?
How often do we have to seek out this bid process?
Very good
Or, because I know that it's every so often, but I don't remember how much that still is.
It's, you do a 1-year contract and then you have 4 years of renewals. So we won't do this again for quite some time.
Any other questions for Tia on those? All right, well then we will move on, I believe, to public relations. Or, I'm sorry,
Intergovernmental agreements. still.
Sorry?
You gotta-
oh, and then keep going, sorry, intergovernmental agreement.
In your packet, you will see an intergovernmental agreement for the district with Mundelein Park District. This is an agreement that we've actually had with Mundelein Park District for some time. However, this new agreement is changing just a little bit, where the district is providing transportation to their facility instead of utilizing the district's facilities. And that will provide busing then from Washington to Dunbar. At this point, we're asking that the board approve and adopt the intergovernmental agreement, but we do have one provision. We're asking for approval pending verification of insurance provisions. So there's some provisions in here that say our insurance company, the transportation company, will list the park district as an additional insured. We're in the process of verifying that that can even be done. If it can be done, this contract will be fine and will be in effect. If it can't, we will come back to the board with that at a later date.
Edited language.
Yep.
You,
And the next item I have on the agenda is our construction management savings. So the administration is requesting and recommending that we hire we provide stipends to 2 individuals, David Zaremba and Kevin Quinn, to operate as the district's construction managers in essence. Generally, this is something that is contracted out, but as part of that, the contractor generally keeps about 20% of the overall package. So this will come at a significant savings for the district, being that our project is over $4.5 million. So at this point, we're recommending that 2 years worth of stipends be provided to Dave and to Kevin. These will not only provide cost savings, but there will be more efficient communication between the district and its contractors. It will align more of our project goals with what we anticipate to happen and to keep our contractors on target there. And it should also provide improved quality control, because again, we have our internal people who know the workings of the buildings operating as that construction manager. This will also provide us the ability, we would be utilizing Kevin Quinn, who's from the high school, who has actually done this for the high school previously, operated as their construction manager. So bringing him in to us not only provides a savings, but the plan is to also have him mentor along with David Zaremba and really develop Dave's capacity in that role as well, so that in the future, Dave will be able to also operate under those same provisions. So the first year, we anticipate that Dave will be learning from underneath Kevin Quinn. And the second year, we're hoping he will take more of the management role and Kevin would be more of an assistant. So with that, administration is requesting that the board approve $84,000 worth of stipends over the next 2 years. The last item that I have on the agenda. Oh, yes, sir.
So in this document, it says 84,000, but there's like 3 other ones that had 42.
42 is the 1-year amount.
1 year, okay.
Yes, so if you add them up, they add up to the 84.
So the 84. How does that work? Is that split between them?
Yes, it is. So they would each receive 42,000 over the first or over the 2 years. So it is split
Okay.
between them. But Kevin would receive a higher percentage the first year, operating more as the lead, and then we would swap that for the second year with Dave.
Right. So it's not like they're each getting this, it's based on experience and.
Correct. And we came up with these figures. I had forgotten to mention how we came up with these stipends. So what we did is we actually researched construction manager cost rates and in terms of just their salaries. And then we looked at the additional time that this will require from both gentlemen in the evenings and on the weekends. And that's how we use, or that data we used along with the dollar amount per hour to come up with that stipend amount.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the last item on my part of the agenda is the administrator and ESP compensation recommendation. At this point, administration is requesting a $450,000 pot of money, which is something we come to the board with every year, is that pot of money to administer increases as well as just to administer increases for the coming year. We are looking at that pot of money being $450,000. We want to be sure that the board's aware that it will not exceed the $450,000. And we will be going to supervisors to say, given the evaluations and given your recommendation, do you recommend the full percent? And we have budgeted for about 5% increases across the board.
How many members of the administration and ESP is this covering?
That one I don't have off the
Okay.
top of my head, but I can research that. Get it.
Just trying to get a ballpark, but that's, I understand, and that's okay, and I didn't prepare you for that one, sorry. Okay, so this would be, you're asking for approval of up to 450,000 as a pot of money for then the superintendent and down to assign to have this a budget to administer increases for these category of employees who fall outside of our teaching contract where that is a part of. For their salary increases is already part of that. Have any other
That's
questions?
included in the budget.
Yes, it is.
We're just affirming what's already been included in the budget that you're asking us to approve tonight as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, since I was trying to jump the gun, now we'll ask Peter to come up to give us a report.
That was
For
good.
the public relations.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? You good? So I do this once a year, so let's make it good, right? All right, so I'll give you a quick introduction of what we're doing here in District 75 Public Relations. We use a variety of channels in communicating with our families and the public at large. We have a full gamut of communication methods or channels, such as quarterly newsletters, direct email blasts, our website, social media, even the mass media to get our message out. Now, we celebrate our students and our staff achievements as their core purpose. We want to spread that positive news about the district to as many people as possible. We use a variety of vehicles because we need to reach people where they're listening, and people listening in a variety of places. The most common place we find online happens to be Facebook. It's by far and away the most popular social media platform in the world. There's also Twitter, and I know a lot of teachers and a couple of administrators, such as Ryan Wood, the assistant principal at Carl Sandburg, uses Twitter, and sometimes we get stuff from them, but we don't do a lot and consistently on Twitter. We stick with Facebook. We're trying to channel that in that direction. So tonight I'd like to spend a little bit of time discussing our Facebook analytics. You can see on the second slide some of the pictures we've taken. Of course, Facebook's big time on images. So we try to get, when you get puppies right there in the middle, or students, or some of the colorful pictures, things that will attract and enjoy, again, positive images. The results indicate that by focusing on these positive sources, we've been able to grow our presence and increase our followers on Facebook. And that success gives us a larger platform to tell our story in the community. In District 75, we have 5 Facebook pages. We have a district page and we have one for each school. And to get an idea of how we're performing on Facebook, I've tried to make comparisons to last year and what our performance was with the Facebook analytics. To do that, we're going to look at each one of the pages separately. We'll start with the D75 page. This is a district page. In District 75, you'll see what we're going to do, and we're going to do this consistently with each page. We're going to have some numbers at the top and then some examples of the posts down at the bottom half of the screen. And we're comparing January to May of 2022 with January to May of 23. The reason we didn't compare August or the whole school year was just because it was hard to get those exact comparisons on Facebook, the way they've got their insights and their analytics set up. It was easiest to break down, and it kind of came out the same way anyway. I'm going to talk about followers, reach, and reach is where how many people see it, no matter if you're looking for it or not, kind of comes up on your news feed on Facebook. And then visits, how many people actually go to your page to visit what's going on in D75. So starting with followers on the left side, you'll see January to May, we had 1,600. And we've increased that by about 226, is a pretty good bump. Meaning more people have seen these posts and I think, well, we want to see more. So they click and they start following our page, which we like because then it promulgates more of that. On the very right side, the visits went up by 806. So more people are actively visiting our page, almost 3,000. In the middle, we had a little bit of a problem here. I was researching this a little bit. Reach is how many people see it, the algorithms that Facebook pushes out that we don't really have control over. Sometimes they'll push out video more, pictures. And I'm thinking we do a lot of that stuff and people comment and like, and I would think the algorithm pushes out. Come to find that Facebook really will decrease that algorithm and that push, that reach, if you're not paying for paid posts, which we don't do. I don't like to, there's no reason to. So to combat that, there's other ways we can get around that. So while it says our reach went down by 14 to almost 15,000. I think we kind of spiked last year because that 8,545 is not a bad number if you look at some of the other Facebook pages we have. But a couple of the ways we can kind of boost that algorithm to drive a little bit more is by interacting a little bit more. Now, I don't like to get into comments with people when they give comments. I don't want to. I like them to interact with each other and to maybe, congratulations, things like that, or way to go team, stuff like that. I'm not, but I can like their posts. If they comment, I can like their comments. So there's certain things I can do. Another thing I can do is add more links to pages. We will do this a lot in the school pages because we've got certain things that we want to point to on those school pages. In the district website, Facebook page, we don't have point to as many links, but if we set up to suggest that they go to this link and give them a live link to send them to a particular page, that also drives the algorithm. And lastly, going to Facebook Live. I am adverse to Facebook Live because you never know what's going to happen with kids, right? So I try to stay away from that one, but I will work on trying to drive that algorithm a little bit more. I also want to talk about the content on the lower part. The most popular content on the D75 page was really varied. We had good performing posts on events featuring kids, events featuring our staff, and important notices about school. So if you go down the second last one, it says D75 in school today. At 1,300 people were reached on that. Actually, more than 500 people were engaged in that one. They liked or shared or commented. That was that day back on February 16th. When we weren't sure if we were going to have school the next day because the weather was really looking ominous. We're going to have a snow day, maybe not. So as soon as we got that on there, we're going to have school today. I think people were, sharing that. Don't forget there's school tomorrow, the bus is coming and, all that kind of stuff. So I think those are important services we can use besides our website has that information. And you'll see the Mondance Film Festival had reached almost 3,500 people. That was a very popular thing. A lot of kids. The dual language ceremony included a lot of kids, staff appreciation, people like the staff, those kind of things really got good hits. And you'll see the engagement, the percentage of people engaged was real heavy. The Facebook average is about 7% for engaged compared to reach. Here on the first one, we got almost 50%. On the second one, I'm not good at math, but 350 for out of a reach of 2,300. Very good engagement, and I like to see that in our posts. If you can go to the next page. So this is Carl Sandburg. In Carl Sandburg, we had an increase in followers up at the top left of 134, which is a pretty good number, and an increase in visits on the far right of 500, which is an excellent increase. And also the reach, it was 11,000 last year, about 15,000 this year. So again, it was driven very well. I think at Carl Sandburg, there were more of those links and more of the need to comment or interact with some people. I think that helped drive the reach a little bit. The posts, they earned a greater reach than on the D75 posts, but the content here showed the greatest popularity when we featured kids. Parapros, you'll see near the bottom, Parapros Appreciation got a pretty good following too, but the parents of the the special needs kids that work with parapros, it's very important to them. But you'll see in the older kids, the ones that, or the older kids' schools, like Carl Sandburg compared to Lincoln or Washington, the parents are more involved in what their kids are doing. The younger schools, they're really into the staff because they're trusting them with their kids for the first time. So you'll see on these on Carl Sandburg and even MG, the ones with the kids got the most attention. With the other schools, Washington and Lincoln, so one of the teachers and the staff got more attention. Again, this one, the one that won was the top one was sixth graders win the dog naming contest. Picture of a puppy, you can't go wrong. Whenever we get opportunities to do that, we're on top of it because puppies, kittens, all those kind of things sell and we want to get that out. The next page is Mechanics Grove. Followers increased by 131, visits went way up. More than probably tripled, and then the reach also increased. So we saw some good activity there. Mechanics Grove is the one school right now we have where the principal, Tanya, is actually on Facebook with me. So I'll do some, and if I can't make it, she'll do some. We do have interest. Stephanie wants to get on there. We have had a couple of glitches with Facebook on trying to get the management switched over, but we do want to work on that and get Stephanie and even Mark involved in this as well. But really, it's worked out well. We've had Mechanics Grove. People were interested in posts that highlighted positive events for their kids. Again, leadership, that was a big day. Some of you were there, I know, and we had good engagement on that, and good posts, and the rest were the kids, third graders tour, the author that visited, the lighthouse winners, things like that. So let's go to Washington next. We had an increase in followers of 89. We had an increase in visits of 1,800, and the reach also increased. So all good numbers. The top posts show strong engagement, 402 out of a reach of 1,500. Again, it's the comfort dog, Millie. Word on the street is that, well, as cute as Millie is, and as great as she's been, she's starting to get the sharp puppy teeth, and they're going to keep her away from the schools for a little while. She doesn't hurt anybody and cause a district problem. So they're going to get her into training and let her teeth grow, and maybe next year we'll see her again. But Millie had her time in the sun, and hopefully we'll see her again next year. But again, good things. We like how the early bird registration deadline, the third last one, got on there. And got some good hits too, because we'd like to try to promote not only the things that people like to see, but things that they need to see. We'll go to the Lincoln was a little lower than the others, although it still saw increases. So we went from 33 followers and doubled that. The visits more than doubled, and the reach again went down. This kind of mirrors what the D75 one did, because there's not a lot of events that we've covered at Lincoln. We're going to try to improve that next year. But the reason the reach kind of decreased is because we're doing a lot of district-wide posts on Lincoln's page. Okay, and you'll see what some of those are. Professional admin, Professionals Appreciation Day, cultural celebrations. These are district-wide things. And so what's happening is there's not a lot of links that go out, and there's not a lot of comments and suggestions on that. So we're going to try to increase that, and as well as getting out to Lincoln a little bit more and working closely with the principal to get some more activity on there. But you can understand if the little kids, the Facebook isn't as big of a deal as it is with some of their kids, depending on what they're involved with. But we're still working on this, and room to grow.
Population wise, it's a lot smaller.
It is a much smaller
compared to
school.
each of the other
It is a much
schools,
smaller
or
school
our
as well.
school, because there's 3 districts there.
Exactly. So lastly, I want to talk to you about switching away from social media onto the next page. We're going to talk about the board meetings, and we're recording it right now, and this will be on YouTube. And I want to give you an idea of what kind of activity we're seeing on YouTube. So you'll see the board meeting data is on the left, then the view count and the actual view count. I'll explain that. If you look at the July 26th meeting, the view count is 3. But what happened there was the average view time was 22 seconds. That meant somebody like our webmaster went on, Jennifer Fletcher, went on there once or twice, or somebody was checking to make sure it worked. And that was it. So the actual view count was 0, because that wasn't really viewers. That was just somebody testing the page. And so we want to look at the middle column and look at how many people actually viewed it. August 23rd, we had 2, September 20th, we had 4, and all the way down. At the last few meetings, there's been, just a couple people have viewed it until April 18th. We had 4 viewers for an average time of 19 and a half or almost 20 minutes. But it's a select few, but I bet you if we got into this and found out exactly who was watching, it might be the same person. And there's no way of knowing that, but we did find out that we have a consistent but small number of viewers. You want to turn to the next slide and we'll look at our Zoom. And we're zooming right now. The Zoom attendees number is by the date, and then the staff on Zoom means we have had some staff go on Zoom. So if you look at September 20th, we had 2 Zoom attendees, but one of those is staff. So really, we only had 1 public person on there, and the average time, 1:54 for that. The biggest one was March 14th, when we're talking about staff changes, and we have some people here, and so on Zoom, it was 6 people, 3 of them were staff, but it was only for a small time on average. So those are your numbers, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on those.
Can you clarify for us, since we're always here, as
Yeah.
opposed to watching on Zoom or YouTube, what is the difference? Is that Zoom would be
Zoom-
watching it live?
Zoom is right now live.
And
and
then
then we're gonna
YouTube is
post
the
it on-
recording.
We're gonna post it on YouTube, and so it's available for 6 months on YouTube.
Okay.
Is that right on? I think it's 6 months. And so people will be able to see it. So some people watch now and then other people, and we don't know, maybe it's the same person watching it
Sure.
that they're interested in, say, finances, or they're interested in to see if there's anyone in the public, the open public comment section or something like that. But we don't know that for sure, but we do know it's a small number, but it's consistent.
But it's just expressing the difference between, it's the same recording
Yep,
essentially,
same.
one is live.
Yep.
And then one is the recording to
Exactly.
watch at another time if somebody couldn't tune in at 6:30
Exactly.
or 7, so. okay.
Right. All right. There's no other questions. I appreciate your time.
So the last part is really that's for the board, for you to be able to discuss. Every year we talk about, do you want to continue streaming them, board meetings and then posting them on YouTube? So, and then what we did have is the survey of Lake County, it's about 50-50. So we know when COVID was going through, almost everybody was using Zoom to broadcast their board meetings. Since that COVID's no longer in play, we're seeing some boards go back to where they don't have the Zoom. And that's what's up for discussion for you to help give us direction. Do you want us to continue providing streaming for our board meetings or not?
So I have voiced my opinion before. I get that we all have a contribution towards that, and now we're missing 2 members tonight, but I know that since we are making a concerted effort to, form the strategic planning / community outreach committee, we haven't had a lot of community outreach engagement, and that has been one of our goals. That's obviously part of the strategic plan. We'll also hear about a little bit in trying to increase the community engagement. I think to me, one of the instrumental things to think about is, I don't know, other than that one minor meeting in March, we haven't, knock on wood, thankfully, good things. We haven't had a lot of really controversial issues in the past year that's been posted, but there have been others in the past where I know that our engagement and watch views and all that were much higher when we had things that were of interest. I know that some, especially I feel like there is somewhat of a difference between the 2 districts, between elementary and the high school, because there is a different makeup among the family. The families that are likely to watch have young kids, which it makes it harder sometimes unless you have 2 parents or a babysitter or something to attend a meeting, even if you find it interesting and want to attend and watch. So whereas at the high school, when you're dealing with older kids who can stay alone and you can deal with that, if a parent really wants to go, they can fit that in among all their kids' activities. I get that too, but I think we are looking at different audiences that we have to be aware of. On top of that, not all community members who have interests in all of this have families in our school. So I get that that's not a piece of it too, and if they want to come, they can. I like that we have the option. I think that it I fear what it says to the community if we shut it down, because it makes it seem like we're trying, even if it's not a closed meeting, the door's open, they can come in. It makes it seem like we're trying to be secretive about what we're doing rather than being open and engaged. And if we're, I don't know what it says, if we're trying to increase community engagement, but then shut down one of our avenues to do that. I just don't like that perception, but I realize I'm one of 7 and, you know, that's my perception. And I think that it's a small, we have the technology now, right? So it's not like we can use it. I get that sometimes there's not a lot of benefit and maybe it's a cost benefit analysis. And I know that sometimes, especially if some of our meetings go really late, there is a cost and we do have to be mindful of that because we do have to pay our very hardworking staff who know how to run this far better than any of us would be able to. You know, in order to do that. And I know that that means overtime for some of them. And that's a cost consideration we do have to think about. But to me, considering all the other costs we spend and where that goes, I feel like it's still worth it because on the off chance we have some issue that does strike the heart of somebody who wants to, you know, a bunch of people that want to watch, I like that we have the option to do it. But I understand that it's not widely used and that, but I also completely acknowledge my perception is skewed because I'm still doing court on Zoom 90% of the time. So we're using it a lot and it has increased participation and engagement and, you know, a lot of that from people who, you know, otherwise can't get to the courthouse. So I
agree
realize
with all of your points and just want to add, I also liked that, or I do like that if YouTube and Zoom have the closed captioning available, so it just reaches all of our demographic as well.
because we don't have that live. Right?
Exactly, yes. I'm in favor of continuing it for, you know, the reasons you said.
I think the point of what you said with like the community engagement, like maybe right now is not the time to say, let's not continue. Let's follow through with this community outreach strategic planning first. Does the community even know that this is still available? Or are they kind of sort of like, oh, well, the kids are now back at school. And so maybe the board meetings have gone back to just live and Zoom's not available. I don't really know. Right? And so, yeah. That's right.
Well, everything you said.
Ditto.
I would add to that, we start thinking and building off of that. Because if we start thinking about the future, and that's kind of what we're doing with the strategic plan, where we're at, but where we want to get to. And even following up on what you're talking about, Pete, you know, about how do we get there? I think if there's things that we start doing with the community outreach as a committee, that is gonna, I think, help sell what the board is doing. I mean, there's a lot of interest and a lot of things that are going on. But right now, we're not, as a board, doing a lot of that in terms of connecting with the community and what we're doing and what we're about. And even tonight, if I use tonight as an example, because we talked about having kids come to the board meeting. And even if these people get home tonight and say, hey, Johnny, you know, look, you're on TV, you know, those are the little things that when you start to multiply that out across the district and then across the community. And if we look at and start to make, you mentioned cost benefit analysis, but if we look at a different analysis of where we're at and you're monitoring that, and we have the committee become active and start with community outreach, monitor and
See those analytics from Pete next year and see,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe they're
see if
a lot
we've been
bigger, right.
successful.
Right.
And it's a measure for us as well.
Right.
Not only on Pete's end, but on our end, were we successful in reaching out to the community? Did we accomplish what we had set out to do? So. I think we should continue at least for a while, so we can have some measure.
And right, when we do committee work, I think we could also talk about if it would be beneficial to even like post on Facebook when we have board meetings, and what the Zoom link would be, just to engage more
Right.
people as well.
because I know that I've had a number of people, again, there are so many ways for families and everybody, who are part of our district to be involved, but there's also a lot of pull on everybody's time. So if they are going to PTA meetings and, maybe this is not a priority for them, which is fine, unless there's an issue that's important to them and then they, come out. But I know I've had people reach out and go, I didn't even know we had elections. I didn't know we have a new board,
Yeah.
And so if we, and that's part of what we need to figure out, how much do we want to, because we also don't want to be posting everything we do on Facebook all
Right.
over the place. That's not gonna necessarily help either,
Right.
but we've got to figure out how we can be strategic about it and doing that and.
And where you can bring your dogs to one of the meetings.
And post pictures and then so you can tag them and put links.
Puppies,
You
puppies,
can drive them here.
Yeah. So I,
We'll keep posting and then.
Yeah.
Next, Peter.
so next we're gonna hear from teaching and learning.
Hello. Tonight I have the consolidated district plan for your review. This is an annual document that all school districts, public schools in Illinois have to review and then approve so that we can submit it prior to the submission of our title grants. It is not a representation of us consolidating with other districts. It is a representation of our grants being consolidated into one document. It's a way for us to say that we're addressing Title 1, 2, 3, 4, IDEA, and ESSER 3, and how we're using all of those grant funding opportunities in collaboration with each other. There are two new things this year in our CDP that have not been previously there, but they were documents that we were already developing. One was a document that lists our representatives on our BPAC, which traditionally has been a separate document we have submitted to the state. And now that's been absorbed into our CDP. And the second document is more specific to our special ed initiatives and how we're meeting our targets. And that also was a separate document. And so Jamie traditionally had done the special ed one and Ryan Zach had done our BPAC version. And now this year we were able to absorb those into this one document to submit.
Can you tell us what BPAC is?
It is our bilingual parent advisory committee. Okay, yes, make sure I got all that right. And it's a way for us to engage with our families and our communities to say this is how we're supporting our multilingual students, as well as how we're doing community outreach and engaging our teachers in professional development. Questions on the consolidated district plan? Great. The next item under teaching and learning is our strategic plan work, which you have been hearing about through your board committee. And we were excited to be able to participate in that work with you as committee members. And so Ray, Emily, and Eric were able to help guide us in that work. And so I'm going to have Jamie and T come up to talk a little bit, and then we'll hand it over to the committee members. Anna, you want to pull up those slides for us, please? Thank you so much. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I found another typo as I reread it. And so I know we even went through it yesterday and Dr. Myers used his eagle eye and we still managed to miss it. And so I am very sorry about that. So what happened was, as you know, the committee determined what the themes, the values, and the goals were for each of the areas that the district wanted to focus on. And then as a building and district leadership team, we took those goals back to the D75 admin group and said, here are the goals that were presented and voted on by the board. And now we have the opportunity to come up with some potential action items. And so the admin team got together and brainstormed a whole slew of ways that we could potentially provide evidence to support the goals and the vision and themes that were approved. And then we brought those potential action items back to the committee. And the committee at that point was able to kind of work through them and determine which action items they wanted to have us focus on. And then within that, kind of gave us some nice timeline benchmarks, so that even though we know we're working on them over the course of the 3 years, we can kind of focus on one at a time over the course of that 3-year cycle. So the first one was the student achievement goal 1, and it really aligns to the work of what we've been presenting to you these last 2 years and even before my arrival, in terms of that assessment data and being able to really take a closer look at how we're measuring our student growth, our student achievement, and areas of continued improvement. And so those were the 3 action items we came up with to then continue to help staff support and develop those themes as we work, whether it's in our small team, our grade level teams, or as a building team. Then the second goal for student achievement was related to how the assessments connected to our curriculum. And so these action items are addressing, making sure that our professional development is focusing on our differentiation, making sure that we're looking to make sure that we have our assessment aligned to our curriculum. Because if you're not assessing what you actually taught, then the assessment is totally useless. And we want to make sure that it all goes together and makes sense. Aligned to our curriculum goal planning, our dual language programming, and then just making sure we stay on target with our 5-year curriculum review cycle, which we put into place last year for the next 5 years. Questions on those 2 parts? Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Jamie.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the equity goal. So this again, from the committee with Eric, Emily, and Ray, we had the opportunity to discuss, really equity came up a lot as far as us as a district celebrating our diversity, elevating, promoting equity. And so wanting to increase our school community partnerships, communication and outreach, and that how that kind of that synergy impacts the school culture. So we talked a lot about kind of put these in an order, starting by increasing events at within the community and opportunities for the board and families and administration to get together at these events, things such as the cultural fair, parent nights. We've been running parent nights every year for the last few years on topics like social emotional learning, structures at home, anxiety, things like that, special education parent nights, literacy nights, biliteracy nights, things of those nature. So that's our first step for the first year. And then looking at this complements really well with what Peter shared earlier. So looking at the tools and possibilities to ensure that all of our communication is getting to all of our stakeholders. So for households where maybe a different language is spoken, maybe there's a different tool that we can survey our families to see would be, you know, more helpful for them to get the information about what's happening at school. And then also wanting to look and evaluate our after-school summer programs and clubs and activities from a cost and access perspective. So continuing to make sure that that we're eliminating barriers for our students in order for students to have full participation in these areas. So that was our equity goal. And then, thank you. So then the other one was a partnership goal. So this, again, looking at those values of maintaining a collaborative culture. So this one was really great too. And again, complements a lot of the conversation from tonight, informing the board annually on how shared service dollars are reallocated and how shared services opportunities have increased. The first one would be working with other District 120 feeder districts, because S75 we're one of those feeder districts. So as we work with Fremont and Hawthorne, for example, on building programming, Diamond Lake as well, building programming, as we know, we have some opportunities with kind of how things have been going with CEDAL and their programming, their brick and mortar programming and their programming in schools. It's allowed us some opportunities to build more. So as we collaborate with the other districts, one example of that is the work we're doing at the Lincoln Early Learning Center, which has been really exciting this year, and looking ahead to next year, lots of exciting things, but that's a constant collaboration. Some other examples include special education programming alignment. So as the as the programs have been going up, and we'll be at
both of our self-contained programming classrooms will be at Sandburg next year. There's a lot of cohesion and close collaboration between myself, Laura Ehas, and then Candace Terrell and Kim Goldberg at the high school, just in terms of just like the programming, the resources. Right now, we're looking at some SEL products, and we're both looking at that for our life skills programming in high school as well as in the middle school. So just those opportunities for continuity and resources is really great. Looking at the goal that we have listed as that second goal, so that would be maybe a 24-25, our goal would be for 24-25, but obviously can start sooner, is just areas within the teaching and learning and student services where we can collaborate more on professional development. So one past example, before we were a shared service and before the pandemic, seems like so long ago, we did some common professional development on English learners and being eligible for special education. So like Fremont staff came, District 75 staff and things of that nature. So bringing back some of those opportunities as the years come forward. We could do that with equity, with our earned honors programming, lots of shared professional development opportunities in our future. And then finally, like looking at the PTO and the BPAP, and looking at right now, there's a lot of amazing activities that are occurring, and these are just two groups to kind of highlight, but then there's like the steamers and all of those things, just on how maybe we could even blend some more so that there was more blending versus like separate events. So more continuity and collaboration there. So those are the two that I was going to report on. Are there any questions before T comes up? I'm going to pass it on to T.
As we were looking at the finance goals for the coming year, first and foremost, we want to maintain our fiscal stability and the equitable spending practices that we have. One of the ways that we do this is challenging those traditional methods of operation and finances. So in other words, finding different revenue sources, finding alternative ways to pay bills, or alternative ways to bring down the costs associated with the district. An example of two of those would be our partnership with District 76 on our lunch program. That's not only providing us lower lunch costs, but also bringing in some rental income for the district. That's a great opportunity for us not only to work with another district, but also provide some additional revenue. Another example of that is our COPS grant, the security grant that we received this year that was very large. That is an example of one of those alternative methods of resources that we utilize to help enhance our district. So we want to expand that and to continue that in the coming years. Next is promoting that responsible resource allocation through the long range plan. So as Ray discussed earlier, that finance committee takes a look at our budget in depth. And as part of that, we were able to show the finance committee our 5-year plan and how that's developed and how that is monitored and utilized in the coming years. Because without a long range plan, it is very difficult to plan for those responsible resource allocations if you're constantly addressing fires that you didn't realize were coming down the pike. So utilizing those long range financial plans, as well as the last one, which is to negotiate fair, equitable, and sustainable contracts. Obviously, as we go forward, whenever we enter into a contract, we need to be sure that not only we can provide for that contract this year, but we can also provide for that in coming years, and we have allocated enough resources for that. We go to the next slide. Goal number 2 is to develop those 21st century facilities. A great example of that is the Carl Sandburg work that we're currently doing. But as part of that, our first action step is to complete projects listed on the health, life, safety reports. When I first started here, we had our health, life, safety review done. I've been here now 7 years. And so we're about to have another one, being that they come every 10 years. So it's making sure that we have a complete list of projects, that we're addressing those health, life, safety needs. And we're also working with the State Board of Education to make sure that we're addressing any safety hazards that we might have at each of the buildings. The second action item is to make those recommendations to the board that support the 21st century facilities. Obviously, we have brought that to you along with alternative sources for providing those. So for example, not only did we recommend the bonding, but we also recommended funding part of that out of the district's resources to bring down that cost on taxpayers. And finally, formulate that long and short range plans of capital developments. As we look to the future, we have Carl Sandburg, that work that's beginning immediately pretty much and will require a lot of our attention. But as part of that, we want to spend this next year or two looking at what exactly do we want to do at our facilities over the years. Let's develop some more detailed short and long range goals as it relates to that, that will also improve our 21st century facilities. With that, I would like to hand it over to Ray to see if he would have any other comments, in addition to answering any questions you might have about the finance goals. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, guys. You're the best. Let me hand these out.
Thank
Just because there's something that I added to the back of it. To kind of tie this all together.
If anyone wants them, let us.
So. When we first started with the strategic plan and when we first started talking about developing a mission statement and then a vision statement, and then we started talking about a value statement. And then under that, we started to develop goals based on what we determined the values to be. And then you've heard the action plan from the administration. What's what's significant about that is it's tying everything together. So it's not, we're not operating in a vacuum. And the last thing that I added to this, if you look on the bottom of what student achievement was, we just talked tonight about the committees. So under their parent teacher advisory committee, under equity, community outreach committee. And then under partnerships with the shared service committee. And then under fiscal, the finance committee. So that kind of brings everything full circle. Where we have our mission statement, vision statement, goals were developed. We have a partnership in place, working towards the goals and where we're moving. And the key number you keep hearing tonight is 5 years. Normally a strategic plan runs for 5 years because this was our first one. We may end up having to do something a little sooner. But the key to having these committees on the bottom of this is it kind of gives the committees the ability as they're looking, planning and moving forward with what they're going to do. Excuse me. Is that consistent with what the action plan is with the administration? Is it consistent with the goals that we set? Is it consistent with what we said our values were? And it puts us in a position now of forcing us to monitor what's going on. We don't want to just get these, throw this out there and now it's done and we're gone. No, we have to keep looking at it and see if there's things that we said we were going to do that aren't working or it's not possible. And it gives us an ability then to stop and make adjustments so that we're not spinning our wheels here, that we're actually accomplishing things that we said we were going to do. And again, I think this whole process shows the community as well as the board and staff that we're working together, that we're sharing this vision of where we want to be and what we want to accomplish. So I don't know, Emily, you.
No, perfectly said. Yeah, the only thing I would add is that I think it almost provides some direction to the committees too. So,
Right.
right, like you said, consistency, but also direction.
So is this the strategic plan then, when you added the board committees at the bottom, this is the plan that you're asking us to adopt tonight, or is this just notes? to put it
Well,
together.
I think that this is what we're looking to adopt tonight, but I would say to keep it in mind that we're adopting a strategic plan. That,
It's a living document, I think is
Yeah.
what we need.
but it goes all the way back to, and I know we did the mission statement and everything else.
right.
But that's all part, mission statement and vision statement,
Right.
that's all part of the strategic plan.
Right. Just the question I have is, and maybe this is the typo that Sarah found, I found it's the typo, so I just, that was. I'm not approving it or not, I just wanted to make sure that, and then like it looks like the it's cut off because it needs to have the, what is that, the,
Celebrate.
yeah, yeah, it's gotta have wrap around in
Yeah.
that cell, and then implementation has a double E down here. Okay, no, that's fine, as long as that's,
We'll clean it up.
that's all I was asking, I
She
wasn't.
did that on purpose to make sure.
Just to see if I was reading, yeah, okay.
I, thank you, Ray, but no.
No, and that, I'm only asking because if we're procedurally, I just wanted to make sure that,
Like this isn't being posted on the website.
Thank
once
you.
We say yes.
right, okay,
Okay.
that was my only question, not a substantive question about the plan as a whole. I think it looks great, I think it makes sense, I think it's, columns and ranks and everything, we're trying to get everything in order, and I think it's a great work and effort by everybody who has spent a lot of time on it, and I appreciate the effort, so I wasn't being critical, but just asking for understanding, was this gonna be posted tonight on the website? That's exactly a good question for how I was doing that. And then I was going to say, maybe it would make sense to have maybe a document that does have the whole combined
Yeah.
with the mission, the value, so that we're doing, I know that we've previously looked at it and not looking to table it, we want to go forward tonight with that, but just a question to understand, so. Does anybody else have any questions for Ray or any of the other? Excuse me, people tonight, okay. All right, so. That concludes teaching and learning, correct?
Thank
Nope,
you.
no, that's okay, just making sure, since, I want to make sure I'm not stepping over anything else. And then we will now hear the report of the superintendent's office.
Good evening, everyone. First item in my area is regards to the joint conference. Georgie, every year, the school boards all come together to be able to go to the III conference in Chicago. Our board, the last few years, I think about everybody's went, and it's during that weekend, the weekend of November, or am I at 17th through the 19th?
Weekend before Thanksgiving, every.
Yes. And so the district picks up per diem for all the board members, parking, we take care of. Well, attending the conference, hotel, and there's a food per diem as well. What we want to be able to do is answer maybe some questions you would have. And B, as a board, I'm going to ask you to give me direction. So I'd ask for the direction first. In previous years, we've been invited by companies to go out to dinner one night. We weren't invited last year. And we are not able to solicit people to take us to dinner. So if we do not get a invitation to go out to dinner one night, my question to you is, would you be willing to have the district be able to pay for you and a +1 excluding alcohol to be able to go to dinner one night to be together? Because it's one of the things I think I've heard all of you say, that that's a great time for you to actually be able to be together and just talk. And +1s, just getting to know each other, and it's not just business. I would advocate that is something that you should be able to do. You guys do not get paid for the roles that you're in here right now. So we've thought about it. T brought it up to me. I mean, we have a food allotment already for our board meetings prior to, but it's something that you need to be able to discuss. And why do you need to be able to discuss it? You've got to think about, if we did get FOIA, which we haven't been, and somebody sees, it could easily be $1,000 for food for a group. If you're figuring roughly at least 10 to 15 going down to Chicago. And having people say, you as a board are using taxpayer dollars to go have dinner. So that's why the ask is there, because that's questions we'd all need to be able to address. I'm confident in being able to address those. but you're ultimately the ones that would need to be able to feel confident in that decision. So that's why I'm asking for your direction. Question is, you want to go down to dinner if we don't get an invite? Have the district pick up the meal for yourselves and plus one excluding alcohol? Or would you rather? I assume still go to dinner, but not have the district pick it up. Floor is yours.
So I can give a few comments. I've attended 3 or 2, 3. Is it correct?
Three.
I think it was 3 and then one was
Yeah.
virtual, right? So I think it was 3 and then one was virtual. That's why I was trying to think. So the first year we did, it was both districts went out together and it was sponsored by somebody else. It was nice. One of the things that was really nice about it was being able to sit down with, in a more social atmosphere with the other board as well, with D120. It gave us an opportunity to really get to know them rather than just in passing or in a couple meetings or sometimes contentious things, depending on what's going on. So I thought that was really valuable, especially considering we have the shared services. And if you're not on the shared services committee, you're not generally interacting with them. So I thought that that was invaluable. So that was one of my questions was, if we proceeded to do this, would this be with them? My understanding, and I don't want to misquote, is that the D120 board has elected not to pay for their own dinner.
They would pay for their own dinner.
They would. Oh,
Yes, they
okay.
would.
Then I
So
misunderstood.
D120 had this conversation earlier. They would like to have dinner together, both boards conveying exactly what Christie did.
Mhm.
They ultimately decided that they would rather pay for their own meals and still go out.
Okay, but they are there, so what I was saying was that the board as a whole was not going to fund it, which is the question. Okay, so I was like, I misunderstood. Okay. So they are going to individually pay for their own dinner so that the district is not paying for it. I think that regardless of which way we go, I think it's invaluable. So the 3 years, so the first year, it was sponsored, maybe right, architecture for, I don't remember. And it may have been lawyers, it may have been. Then the next year was virtual. The other year was sponsored by somebody else, and it was very nice. And it was nice to be able, again, to go with the both board. Last year was a little different. We were not invited, and it was still fun. There were still, when you go down there, there are a number of vendors and third parties and everybody else that sponsor various things that we can sign up for. So it was still a fun time. Groups of us did go out together, and it was still fun to see, you know, some of the administrators and other people in a more social setting. So it was still enjoyable. We still had fun. So it's not as though if we don't do this, you're gonna be locked in your hotel room all night. But it also, not everybody has an interest in going to a cocktail hour or a bar or whatever. So it didn't include everybody. It was not inclusive of the collective board and administrators based on everybody's schedules. And that's a pro and a con. You know, it's nice to see everybody and there are still things to do, but we didn't get to see everybody. So it didn't feel as inclusive or as nice, and we didn't get to see everybody. I understand the taxpayer implications. One of the things that I expressed to Dr. Myers too is that I worry that by us saying as a board, we're each going to pay our own way. I don't want to speak for everybody's financial circumstances in this room and don't want to put anybody on the spot to say, hey, are you willing to pay, you know, whatever. I don't want anybody on our board to not choose to go because they don't want to have to, you know, to fund the dinner for themselves. So that is something that I'm also aware of that I want to bring up. I said, and I, you know, want to hear from all of you, because I could go either way with it, and it's not going to stop me either way from going. I'm going to go, I'm going to attend. It's been an enjoyable experience. And the first year, I think there were 2 of us that went. And then I am happy to see that we have increased participation to go with this, because I think it does make a difference. And when only 1 or 2 people are coming back and reporting, there are so many, I don't know if you've ever been before, but there are so many tracks and things that you could go to. You can't possibly attend everything. So it's very helpful to have a lot of us going so that everybody can, some people go to the same thing and you can attend the same lecture and get different things out of it. But it's also nice to hear from different pieces that we all do. So I would encourage everybody to attend, whether or not we want to do the dinner. I guess it's up to you guys. I could go either way and I support both sides of it.
I would be in support definitely of the dinner. I've only been there once and we didn't have it last year, so I could see the benefits in it. That being said, I didn't think it was a required piece in order to get the best out of this conference. So I would also be in favor of us paying our own way and not using the tax money to do that.
And the other thing to think about too is that I know Waldorf, there is a per diem and they will pay for parking and everything. All of these things that are offered, not everybody takes advantage of all of it. So you could still attend and pay for your own parking. You could still attend and I've never taken the per diem because the hotel's fine. The rest of it I can deal with. So that's also an option. So it's not as though just because you go, you have to take all these things and that, could come across in some of the, if that's a concern of somebody's getting FOIA and looking at that, not everybody takes it and there's nothing wrong with either way. So, I think it's fine.
What do you think, Ray?
I've worked in the public sector for over 40 years. And going to these conferences, the first thing that happens when we return is there's freedom of information is filed and want to know how much money was spent and what it was spent on. You also probably noticed that within the week, the Daily Herald on their front page story is talking about how much money the school boards spent on dinners. And I never put in for meals and all the time and all the conferences I've attended, like you say. Because it's just not worth it to me to have this come up as an issue. Because it takes away as far as I'm concerned, it takes away the focus of what we were doing and having this be a positive thing where they try to turn it, they being the newspapers or community members, try to turn it into a negative, and we end up losing the momentum and losing sight of what we were there for and what we brought back to benefit community. So I would not be in favor of having the district pay for that. But I do think it's important that we do get together and have an ability to have some camaraderie and discussion and that I think is very significant.
Everybody agree? Okay.
It is also possible, and I know I've heard from some other school districts in, in going to the number of things when there, other school districts who don't have dinners to go to or don't have, other things to do. Sometimes they would make a choice to go out as a group and then a couple of board members would just, sponsor for everybody and whatever. So that is something collectively we can discuss, talk about privately, it's always possible. Because like I said, I'm also concerned with the other side of it. I don't want anybody on our board to choose not to go just because they're going to be, asked to pony up for
Right.
a 14th of the dinner or whatever. Like I want to make sure that because that's important to me too. So we can talk about private ways to do that if that's there, but I want that to be, mindful of that and make everybody aware of that, but yeah, so I think that gives you your, among the voices in the room, that gives you your direction, that I think we would like to do a dinner, but have it not be paid for by the district. And maybe talk about some other ways that we can ensure that everybody can attend.
So one of the things that we were gonna look to do, if you're open to it, was find kind of a nice restaurant to go to, mid-range, maybe it's pizza, something, but have that and at least secure that restaurant for Friday at some point, so at least we have a room or a place secured. And the intent would be to have both districts be at the same place. Okay.
And I just, only because you mentioned this before, if it is not being paid for by the district, then I suppose whether or not there's alcohol or not depends on everybody's personal preference because they're all paying for it themselves and it doesn't matter, right? Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And if we do get invited, I will let you know. Right.
I'm just gonna turn down all invitations.
All right, next item, my section is press 111. This is the second and final reading. Again, the major part of this update of school board policy is the employment history review process. And Shane did describe that to you at the previous meeting. Essentially, just a quick recap, any employee that wants to come work in our school district, there needs to be a long list of every place they've been employed. Basically since they were teenagers, and we need to do our best effort to try to follow up with that previous employer to see if there are any kind of issues. Okay. Still hoping to get a consortium together that will warehouse a lot of this to make it quicker. Because those requests will be going back and forth between our district. So I'm sure we'll keep you up to date on how that goes. The next one is the school board member vacancy process. So tonight in the board packet, it is recommended to approve the resignation of Freddie Gallegos as a board member. He did submit that to us back on May 11th. What we'd want to be able to do now is to try to confirm some dates and times, probably you as a board would like to do for interviews. The vacancy has been or will be posted. And we do have 60 days from today to be able to fill that position, which puts you at July 21st. As luck would have it, our July board meeting is July 25th. So if we wanted to wait, or you wanted that time to go into July, I would suggest we move our board meeting to align in July. So you're not having two different meetings, that'd be necessary. Or depending on what your comfort level is for timeline, I suggest maybe you first try to see, can you have something potentially ready for the June 20th board meeting? So knowing that the posting's up, I will throw out there just as a starting point for you as a board is take postings up through June 5th. So that gives it roughly 2 weeks to be submitted in. Then look between June 5th and 14th to be able to conduct and finalize your candidate. That 14th would be roughly the week before our board meeting on the 20th. So you'd want to be able to have a recommendation confirmed so you could get that to Anna and have that as part of the board pack.
Which day was that? I'm sorry.
For which one? Tristan?
The last one, so what day would we have to have it confirmed, Anna?
Posting.
That would be, I had it done as June 14th. That's the Wednesday before our board meeting.
Okay.
So figuring if that was the last night for interviews,
Yeah.
you could get the phone calls and confirmations done on Thursday. And then we could just
So the
add it.
15th would be the day to confirm that, then the day after.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Well, the week of June 5th to 14th, is that, is that, what does that look like for everybody, since that is only less than 2 weeks from, it's 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yep.
And would, what we've done in the past is we took, and I think, did we have 2 different nights that we held, or did we do it on one?
So it depended. So usually you kind of waited to see how many
How many?
candidates you had.
Yeah,
Because I think the last one, I think you did it in one night.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, so we'd see how many we have, but maybe we would take maybe 2 tentative dates from us sitting here so that we can kind of have that. And we can always drop one if need be. And we did that in the evening. We did that in the evening the last time, because I think that would probably tend to be easiest for those of us employed during the day. Those jobs we do for money.
7th, 8th, 9th are the only ones in that 2 weeks that I'm open.
Would you say?
June 7th through 9th, I said are the only ones that work for me.
I could do virtually any night that week, so I would tend to prefer not to do a Friday, because I think that that's going to make it harder for people to generally, I can be here, but
I know.
I would think that the attendant, so I would say if we were trying to nail down 2 dates, the 7th and 8th might be good options. I would say the 8th is probably better for me, but I'll make either one work. I can do them. You have,
The 8th is the only day I could do it.
okay,
I'll be out of town.
okay. So why don't we tentatively say June 8th and hope that we can get them all done in one night? Does that work for you? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay. Yes. And I guess we'll set the time based on how many we get. Or do we think we would try to start like 6:30, or we just have to see?
Well, I think start time, I'm trying to remember last time, I thought one of them
Yeah.
had you start a little bit earlier, kind of depends on work schedules.
Yeah,
So I think if you.
I
want to
can
plan
make
on-
anything work, especially since it's summertime, so there's a little less activities going on
Okay,
for my household than
Yeah.
everybody else.
I agree.
so I mean, I think the most we've ever had was 5 candidates come forward. So I mean, if we take that
We
as
can get that all done, yeah.
kind of our limit, I think if you start at 5. I think most of them usually ran your interviews, took between 30 and 40 minutes. It gives you plenty of time and kind of reasonable where it's not going well into the night.
So you said 5 PM is the
So
time
I'm
to start?
wondering, yeah, you think 5 PM could be a potential start time for you?
I could make it work. Does 5 PM work for you, right, on the 8th? As long as it's the 8th, right? So, okay. Okay, then we have a tentative timeframe there. Oh, I am looking at this thing here. It does say 6 PM to screen applicants, but we can do 5. I think that makes sense. That's fine. Get us out earlier. That's okay. And then that gives us time to discuss and then hopefully finalize. For that, okay. So then that would put us on track if we're able to do that, to have it figured out for our June 20th board meeting so that we don't have to move the other board meeting. And then we'd be well within our 60 days.
Yep. Okay. Very good. We'll get that started. The last item, it's the first discussion, is to bring back the declaration. The declaration was the document that was developed when it was decided that District 75 and 120 are going to shared services. It is a document that Lake Forest suggested be created. Because it's the one thing that they've talked about, they wish they had. And the purpose of the declaration was to remind the boards as to why they chose to go into a shared service model. And the example for that is evident today. We've been in shared services for 4 years now. In 4 years, there's 3 board members remaining out of the original 14 that approved the shared services. So the intent is to annually bring this document back. For the board to please take the time to go through it, so to revisit the background and the history and the thought process that went through into going into shared service. The key points to really go through are in the beginning part of the document, understanding the why, the background. The second part is the responsibilities with the 3 main goals they had, which was alignment. And they meant that generally, so alignment academically, financially, everything that we were doing to start working more together. Looking at how we reallocated costs, because there is a certain cost reallocation that becomes available once you go into shared services, because you are essentially having individuals work in 2 districts at a discounted rate, because you don't have 2 people doing the job. One of the things that we did share back in November when we first went through this, then T shared the numbers with us between both districts combined over the last 4 years. It's been almost $9 million that have been able to be reallocated or repurposed in some way by being in the shared service. So make sure of looking at that. The other part was the positive community outreach. So knowing how both districts have worked with their community, that's a priority they wanted to maintain and keep. And then the last part was looking at the board responsibilities, because you have individuals, 7 different members on each board, working with one another. What's that responsibility to each other as a board? And also how we work from a board to superintendent alignment. So those are the 4 main areas. I say if you're crunched on time, please go back through those. And we'd ask for you at the next board meeting, if you have questions, let's bring it up, or if there's any suggestions, let's talk about them. And then we would ask the board to reapprove the affirmation that yes, we do want to continue moving forward in a shared service model. And District 120 is also going through the same process now. That is it for all my reports.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Full evening. So going through, I know we already next on the agenda would be committee updates and going through each one. And at this point, this is usually when each committee and representative would kind of report to the board what each committee is doing. I know we've already kind of gone through and told you a little bit about each one. As far as board policy goes, should be fairly brief since we already heard from the superintendent in his report. Tonight, we do have before us press policy 111 as the final reading and put on the board for adoption this evening. We had discussed at the previous meeting, this is the second and final reading. We discussed that there were no questions at that time, no big things that needed to be answered, and the general consensus, at least at that point, which unless anybody has changed, was to follow the recommendations of the best policy document that told us, what to go through and what was being recommended to change. So another update between now and the next board meeting so that we can prepare for that for Anna to put in and put out for everybody. I will, George, we can get together and go through, let's see, the our board policies to divide them up. So what we had been doing, we started doing for the first time last year, we decided that it was important that rather than one or two people be really conversant in all of our policies and have everyone else not really know what was in there unless they got bored and decided to read through the whole thing. We decided it made sense to try to make sure we were all aware and give us all ownership for it. So we were going through a section at a time. So I had broken the whole thing up into 12 sections under the theory that we would break it up and do 1/12 each meeting and go through the whole thing. We found that to be long and big. And so it's possible, but so we decided that since we have two-year terms before then we roll over with, unless we have vacancies, we roll over with a new board, since we have elections every 2 years, that we would instead chunk it down into smaller chunks so that we can go through it over the course of the 2 years. So you and I can sit, work that out, and I can show you what we did last time, and maybe might be as easy as just dividing them all into half. And then we can get that out to everybody so that everybody has kind of a calendar for the next year to know where we intend to do that. And then we'll get that out to Anna to put out for the next board packet. So that's the only thing that I have at this point for the board policy. Next, we have finance and advisory. Somewhere. I know you guys have been busy with the previous adoption, but for the budget.
No, our next meeting is, I think it's in October, so.
And no different than the adoption of the budget, which was,
we talked
yeah,
about
which was
the
presented,
budget,
so.
right.
then shared services.
Nothing.
Nothing, okay, nothing new to report
Nothing else.
on that, other than the declaration that the superintendent has brought to us to take a look at, then everyone will take a look at that for the next, that's not up tonight for adoption, so that'll be up on the next board meeting. Strategic planning, I think we've heard from that tonight, some of our board meeting time, so we can probably, unless there's anything else to add, move on to the representative updates. So with the STEAM Foundation, once again, we saw the Explorers and Science Explorers tonight. That was one of our bigger initiatives this last month or two. We were initially intending to do that at the April meeting, and because it just took a little, they posted it, that's what he was alluding to, they posted a little bit later, so they wanted to give more time to reach some more amount of students that wanted to participate. So they put it out and we pushed it to today's meeting. It was a little busy, we made it work. We wanted to get it in before the end of the school year. We also did the Mundance Film Festival, which was a couple weeks ago. That was nice because we were able to do that for the first time in a few years because they hadn't gotten to do that. And it was nice to see, interestingly enough, apparently limos are really hard to come by now because they're more party buses is now what is the market for that. And so they're not really making like stretch limousines for all kinds of reasons. So that's usually the big highlight of the event, and my office sponsored that to make sure that we could get that going, because that's what usually gets the kids to make the films, because they want to ride the bus over. So we did have the kids, because that was the 8th grade graduation event. Usually we have all the parents and the kids go to Sandburg and they bus them back and forth up the street, because there was an event going on here already. We did it from MG, so it did take a little bit longer. It was a little bit of a longer trek, but we got it done. And We printed the certificates there and we'll figure out how to maybe do that more efficiently next time, but that worked out. And I appreciate Dr. Myers' help in getting that work out because we're dealing with some new board members getting that done. But that was a successful event and everybody enjoyed that. And as you can see from the Facebook engagement, it was one of the highest engaging, things. And I think part of that is so many of the current seniors did that for the first time a long time. So I think it tended to evoke a lot of response from a lot of parents who are also feeling very nostalgic right now as their kids are graduating. And so I think a lot of the engagement that I saw was among some of the kids who were parents who were thinking about that, but that was good. So it's a nice thing that kind of connects since it's at the high school and it connects, both districts and again, it's a good community thing, even if it's a little bit of work to get it done. We also did the pizza throwdown. I'm trying to think, was that since the last meeting? We had a lot that the STEAM Foundation did since the last time. Pizza throwdown was at Sandburg. It was we had a lot in a short period of time. It was very successful. Everybody who participated and came, I saw many of you there, so thank you. It was a lot of fun and a lot of pizza. I don't remember, 16, I think we ended up having vendors that were there, and that's usually a fun. It's a fun event that people like going to and getting that done. So the kids really enjoy that. Parents really enjoy it. It's a fun evening. So we've been busy. Now we're going to take some time off for the summer and then get going for the fall. And then Eric is our CEDAW representative.
There hasn't been a meeting.
Hasn't been meeting, so he's got nothing to report anyway. And then community outreach or village liaison. No report. All right. So moving on, does any board members have anything from the consent agenda that they would like to remove? Or have tabled for further discussion, or hearing none? Can I have a motion on all of the items in the consent agenda? I will second that. Secretary, please call the roll.
Carl, Aguirre, Tier absent. Pinsky absent. Do I need to?
Fingerhut, aye.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Fingerhut, aye, and Rose, gotcha.
I know we're throwing you into the secretary, like,
All good.
usually just start with the first and the second and then go from there, but
Got it.
you're doing a great job. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
stepping in. We're all learning tonight. Okay, so then for the board action items. I will move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District accept the superintendent's recommendation to adopt the resolution of the fiscal year 24 budget as presented. Secretary, please call the roll.
I'm gonna start with you, Jen.
Yeah.
Fingerhut,
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Aguirre. Pelletier absent. Carl, I, Pinsky absent.
Thank you. And moving along, I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 to accept the superintendent's recommendation to accept the bid from Arbor Management, Inc. for a period of 1 year with the option to renew for 4 additional 1-year periods.
Second.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut,
Aye.
Carl, I, Rose,
Aye.
Aguirre. Pelletier absent, Pinsky absent.
I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve $84,000 in stipends over 2 years for additional time outside of their normal work duties to operate as in-house construction managers, beginning with July of 2023.
Second,
Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut,
Aye.
Carl, I, Aguirre.
Yeah. Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Pelletier absent, Pinsky absent. Do we skip one?
I think so.
Park district, then it comes working on with the park district.
Well, thank you. We'll go back to that. I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the updated intergovernmental agreement as presented.
Second,
Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Carl, I, Rose,
Aye.
Aguirre.
Aye.
Pelletier, absent, Hitzke, absent.
Thank you. for that. I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the administrator compensation increase for fiscal year 24 as presented. Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Carl, I, Aguirre.
Aye.
Pelletier, absent, Hitzke, absent.
Okay, moving along. I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the education support personnel compensation increase for fiscal year 24 as presented. Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Aguirre.
Aye.
Carl, I. Pelletier, absent, Hitzke, absent.
Thank you. I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the Consolidated District Plan or CDP as presented. Okay, Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Carl, I. Aguirre.
Aye.
Pelletier, absent, Hitzke, absent.
I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to adopt the strategic plan as presented. Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Carl, I. Hitzke, absent, Pelletier, absent, and Aguirre.
Aye. Almost there. All right. I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary School District 75 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve Press Plus number 111, second and final reading as presented.
Second,
Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Carl, I. Rose,
Aye.
Aguirre. Pelletier, absent, and Hitzke, absent.
Gina.
Yes.
You second the next one.
You never told me to do that.
You need to get on the agenda.
Part of our mentoring program. Okay. I
I
move,
whispered it in there.
I
Well,
know, no, she tried, she did, I could. All right. I move that the Board of Education of Mundelein School District 75 approve the resignation of school board member Freddie Gallegos effective May 23rd, 2013. And that we approve the posting that we discussed, or do we have to do that? Okay. Second. All right. Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Aguirre.
Aye.
Carl, I. Rose,
Aye.
Pelletier, absent, Hitzke, absent.
Okay,
Did we approve the food?
Yes.
yes.
That was the second one.
I thought we missed one. Can we-
The National School Lunch Bid Program, yes, that was the second one.
We get them all out of?
Yes.
Okay,
And his,
good.
All right, I did skip one, but we made it, we got it back, all right. All right, so it. This time, isn't there like a thing for me to read on?
Read for executive session.
Yeah.
You know what? Or you know it for that. So if everyone would, Sarah would like to introduce our new assistant principal.
Well, thank you.
Okay, hi. I am excited to introduce Mrs. Sunny Morley tonight to you as a board. She actually comes to us with wonderful experiences. She started her career in Big Hollow, where she was a teacher and has now transitioned to the administration. So she's coming to us with 5 years of assistant principal experience already under her belt. She's very well-rounded in her instructional practices. She has been trained in our Fontes and Pinnell system already, which is great. She's familiar with the workshop model. She's been instrumental in moving her teachers already into transitioning to the workshop model. And just, I hope this isn't a breach of confidence. In the interview, she was so excited when she talked about how her favorite part of her day is she greets every student by their name in the morning before school. And she knows 98% of their first names. And so we just were really excited that she wanted to partner with us and that she is joining our team. So welcome. I'm really excited.
Welcome, thank you. Thanks.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. Okay. At this time, I move that the Board of Education meeting will now adjourn and enter into executive session at 9:22. This is the motion to convene it, but this doesn't have why we were going into, but just, okay, well,
Yeah, so it's good.
should say.
We're going for the purpose of.
Okay, for the purpose of the appointment, employment and compensation, discipline, performance or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel or the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Do I need to read the statutory? I can.
No.
Okay, in accordance with law. And the discussion of minutes for the sale and or purchase of securities, investments, or investment contracts. And for the discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for proposed purpose of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by law. Secretary, please call the roll. I guess, is there a second?
Second,
Right, Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut,
Aye.
Carl, I, Rose, Aguirre,
Aye.
Pelletier absent, Pinsky absent.
Okay,
Hey,
sit down Zoom and. Okay,
ready to go. All right. Okay, so I, once again, will call the meeting to order back into open session from the executive session meeting at 9:35. For roll call, Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut,
Aye.
Rose,
Aye.
Carl. I, Pelletier.
Aye.
Aguirre,
Aye.
Pelletier absent, Pinsky absent.
Okay, so I move that the Mundelein Board of Education, Board of Education of Mundelein Elementary District 75 approved the executive session minutes from April 18th of 2023.
Second,
Secretary, please call the roll.
Fingerhut.
Aye.
Carl, I. Pinsky absent, Pelletier absent, Aguirre.
Aye.
And Rose.
Aye.
Okay, so next up, on the agenda is the president's prerogative. I wanted to welcome Georgina tonight, since we didn't get to really do that at the beginning. We have a lot going on that doesn't usually go on at the beginning of our meetings, so welcome. But I wanted to take a moment to recognize and thank you for being here and for joining our board. I also wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us a little about yours, because we don't all know you, so sure, you can introduce yourself, please. Now that you've participated in the whole. meeting.
Yeah, and the whole
Sorry.
thing, yeah. Longtime resident. My family moved here from El Salvador back in 1981. So we've been in some capacity here and there within Mundelein. Went through Mundelein High School. My older children have gone through District 75 and 120 and have had very, very successful journeys. My youngest one is in the dual language, so I so wish we would have had that. For my older two, but you know what? You make do with what you have. And I've just seen like, one of the reasons I came back into wanting to do this type of work is the representation that I'm seeing in education now has changed so much in 20 years, which is not a long time at all. Right? And so that like gives me, I see myself as a kid, like that 8-year-old kid is still inside, you know, and I get to relive these things through my youngest. So it's really exciting stuff, like totally full circle. Right? I was in 3rd grade when I moved here. He started 3rd grade after the pandemic again. And just kind of seeing like, you know, he's a typical boy and he hates school unless it's recess. And his biggest highlight, you guys, is the Gaga Pit. If you haven't heard what the Gaga Pit is, the principal has done an amazing job in like getting these kids to move around in just a different way. I feel like the Gaga Pit is the new dodgeball that we don't get to play anymore. They kill themselves in this Gaga Pit, but he comes home so excited about school. And I'm like, okay, if that's what it's gonna take right now to get you to fall in love with school, I'm gonna take it. Right? So it's just really, really cool stuff that we're doing.
So what year is he?
He's a 4th grader.
4th grader. Okay.
Yes, and thinks he's 13.
Yes,
So,
yes, I have one of those too, a youngest of 3 as well. Yes, he thinks he's a teenager and he just turned 9, but yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's real cool stuff.
Well, thank you for
Thanks.
joining us and we look forward to getting to know you and hopefully.
Work at 120, right?
And I work at 120, yes.
Okay, what do you
Because
do?
why not?
Because why not, right?
Yeah, I teach in the special education department.
Okay.
Yeah, primarily.
But you
juniors
also
and
have an
seniors.
interest when I said that earlier. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it's good stuff.
Yeah, thank you for joining us and I wanted to, you know, like I said, just encourage everybody to I don't know. It's wonderful. I don't know how many of us are all participating in the promotion ceremony on Friday, but look forward to seeing whoever is going to join us for that evening. That's always a fun event. It's my second time getting to be on stage to
Yes.
watch one of my kids go across, so it should be kind of fun. I'll have to win one more turn and come back in 5 years if I want to do it for the 3rd, but that's fine. So I, look forward to seeing everybody there and looking forward to some downtime from all these activities because the end of the year is busy for all of us. Yeah. I've now heard the term many times. They're not calling it Maysember, which is very true. I've heard that now. A bunch of places pop up and that's true. It's busy. Does anyone have any items they want to see on a future board agenda that we can keep in mind and keep in mind for other?
I just want to mention that. Our policy now dictates, you might want to think about this in the future,
amendments?
to mentor. To Gina.
I was gonna talk to her about that and then,
Yeah.
so she's our only new board member, so. But you're right, and that's a good recommendation, because I don't know what she's already done, and then we can,
That's what I'm saying, we don't need to get into it.
no, but you're right, and aware of that, because that has been pointed out. In the last couple of years, I know I didn't have, so, I mean, the district sat me down and talked me through a bunch of things, but beyond that, so, I got called to my first board meeting and was appointed secretary. I was like, what did I just do? Okay, great. So, but yes, we are glad to have you on board and I will talk to you about, how we can help you get acquainted and what you need to do that, because we want you to be a comfortable member and then you get brought in. It's like immediately, do you want to come to the conference in November? What do you want to do about it? Yeah.
Well, I was happy to hear that you guys all wanted to go. I have background in HR, and so conferences were a really big thing for us to kind of go and learn together and then come back together.
Right.
So that was a good thing.
Yeah, and there was a very big difference from the first time when 2 of us went.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then the
Oh,
next
yeah.
time when a whole bunch, it was a
Yes.
much more lively. Atmosphere, and I think we all as a board learned so much more because we
Mhm.
had 6 or 7 pairs of eyes looking around at
Yeah.
things rather than
Yeah.
just
especially brand new of us, two of us walking around. like, What we're here for, but I'll participate, so that is good, so, and it's nice to be able to talk to board members from other districts and all over the state and very different, everyone's in very different circumstances, so it's fun. All right. Well, if there is no further business to come before the board.
One other thing
Okay.
that Anna reminded me,
Uh-huh.
so Freddie was responsible for reviewing the closed minutes every 6 months. And we're coming up to that now, so we would need somebody to review the closed minutes from March. The last 6 months.
6 months, the past 6 months.
Yeah.
Does that have to be done before the next board meeting?
Ideally, yes, before the June 20th.
What does that entail? Like,
So we have to look, we'll have to go back and make sure that we keep the executive session minutes in closed session and review each one for the last, there's a period of time already kind of stretch it out. We also give authorization to destroy the verbatim recordings, and I also have those, we make sure that after 18 months, they're eligible, yep. All those good things, so
Sure.
it should take about maybe half hour.
There's a list of things that we have to keep, and then there's ones we're allowed, so
Sure.
she can walk you through, it doesn't take.
Yeah,
Want
I'm happy
to
to
do
do that.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank
I'll do tomorrow and we'll figure out a date.
Thank
Okay,
you very
thank
much
you.
for volunteering for that. And maybe you can do that after school gets out.
I'm.
A little
yeah,
more
yeah.
time. Because I'm
I
sure,
organize graduation at my
Yes.
school too. and
Yes.
that's a little-
yeah, and I know you're, as a teacher at the end of the year is very busy, forget as a parent, but as a teacher, it's super busy too. So thank you for volunteering for that, so back to that. Any other things that I forgot or didn't know about? Okay.
No,
All
good job,
right.
but you're first.
If there is no further business to come before the board, the meeting will stand adjourned at 9:44 PM. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.